One of my key guys disappeared to Naples, for Christ's sakes.
I've never bought into the idea that Furio got written out of the show because of some behind-the-scenes drama. Every rumor about Federico supposedly leaking scripts, running a gossip column behind Chase's back, or disappearing to raise funds for the Shah of Iran traces back to the ancient IMDb message boards, aka the primordial soup of internet nonsense. People repeat it like gospel, but no one involved with the show has ever confirmed anything like that. It's all tabloid-flavored fan fiction. Honestly, half of it feels like stereotypes in search of a headline. What actually makes sense is what's right there on the screen.
Have you heard of Abelard and Eloise?
I think it's Heloise, and from what I remember, it ends badly.
Furio's arc was designed to come to a head in Season 4. The show didn't character assassinate him.
Carmela, you come too.
Yeah, Carl, go ahead. Good idea.
Carmela pulled out this unexpected softness in him, and the two of them fell into this slow burn, doomed from the start thing that could only resolve in one of two ways. Either he kills his boss to be with her, or he leaves before that line gets crossed.
Better here than at 2,000 feet.
Gonna take a piss.
And when the moment came, when he could have made it look like a drunken accident, he walked away. That choice lands harder because it had been building all season, not just shoehorned in at the end. And honestly, why would Furio stick around after that? The whole environment in the last two seasons becomes increasingly toxic, paranoid, and just plain stupid. He's one of the few genuinely frightening, competent soldiers in the entire DeMeo universe, ruthlessly efficient, clean, organized, standing in stark contrast to the chaotic North Jersey clowns around him.
One of my key guys disappeared to Naples, for Christ's sakes.
Of course he'd look around, weigh his options, and realize, I can just catch a plane back to Italy and avoid this whole war waiting to happen. Staying loyal to an increasingly terrible boss, risking his life for nonsense? No chance. As for the idea that he was written out to make room in the budget for the Shah of Iran, Buscemi, Loja, etc., that makes absolutely zero sense. Frank Vincent wasn't exactly commanding De Niro Pesci levels of money, and cutting Federico wouldn't suddenly free up a pile of cash for 3 major additions. Plus, the way Furio's departure is scripted feels intentional, not like some emergency rewrite because production needed the salary slot. And no, they weren't casting for Season 5 so early in Season 4 that everything had to be sacrificed to the gods of accounting. This isn't Fish Lips in the Egg Salad Chronicles. To me, it all plays naturally. Some characters get whacked, Furio disappears to Italy. It fits.
I guess he's been crying a lot.
Carmela's meltdown at the end of the season hits harder because his sudden absence tears open everything she's been repressing. It contributes to the breakup in a way that feels organic, not like a patch job. Follow the IMDb rumors long enough, and they collapse into themselves. Follow the story on screen, and Furio's exit makes complete sense.
Nowadays, everybody's got to go to shrinks and counselors and go on Sally, Jesse, Raphael and talk about their problem. The strong, silent type.
I'm done with the hand-wringing and the moral philosophy dissertations. From here on out, we respect Tony Soprano. We talk about him like he's the gold standard. No more, he's a sociopath. No more, he's irredeemable. Save it for your ethics class. In this house, we're posting top 10 badass Tony moments videos. We're debating the best hits. We're celebrating the moment he made that kid take his hat off like it was a constitutional amendment. We're acting like we're in the life, calling Zellman a clown for getting whipped, calling Carmela a pain in the ass, hating Aid and Pussy and Jack Masserone on principle. We're posting cigars. We're posting attitude. We're doing what the hell we were born to do in here. And I don't care if David Chase himself shows up to wag his finger. Maybe I don't like that precious art film of his either. 10 minutes in, and suddenly I'm running the place. Lee Iacocca over here. Listen to this guy giving orders. But somebody's got to set the tone, and I guess today, that somebody's me.
For fuck's sake, Paulie, it's 2 a.m.
I know.
Paulie shaking down Chrissy in his own house at 2 a.m. is basically the perfect snapshot of who Paulie is. A paranoid, disrespectful jerk who hides behind tradition and hazing to justify acting like a complete lunatic.
This being made ain't working out the way I thought it would.
Chrissy being newly made just gave him extra permission to break his balls. But let's be honest, Paulie would have done it anyway.
You sniff that girl's panties?
The whole "you sniff that girl's panties" routine? Pure Paulie nonsense.
Enjoy it, girls. I've been enjoying looking at you the whole night.
And the reason he pulls this stunt is the same reason he runs up the tab at restaurants and sends drinks to random women. Because he can. In his mind, that's called being a gentleman, Chrissy. What really comes through in this scene is the hypocrisy baked into the mafia mythology. All that heartfelt ceremony about loyalty, brotherhood, and "come to us, we'll take care of you," evaporates the second there's money on the table.
That's my money, Paulie.
Chrissy spends the whole series being exploited by the very people who swore to protect him.
Let's bury the hatchet, you and me.
Life's too short, Chrissy.
We'll split the tab.
And when he finally tries to stand up for himself after Paulie crosses the line, he's basically told, shut up and deal with it. And with Paulie, this behavior isn't an exception, it's a pattern. He respects almost no one besides Tony and Tony's mother. He's a serial liar, and whenever he's short on his kick-up, he magically develops the urge to shake down whoever's within reach. He creates his own problems and then forces everyone else to carry the weight of them. So yeah, the 2 a.m. home invasion wasn't really about Chrissy owing him anything. It was just Paulie being Paulie. Petty, insecure, and making his mess someone else's burden. Rewatching Season 3, Episode 13, The Army of One, I'm reminded just how good Jamie Lynn Sigler could be when the show actually gave Meadow something substantial to play. That whole sequence around Jackie Jr.'s funeral is some of her absolute best work.
The fact that you would even say this in front of an outsider is amazing to me.
The kitchen scene in particular, the way she defends her father and the family, feels like it was lifted straight out of a movie. The facial expressions, the timing, the emotional snap of the fact that you would even say this in front of an outsider is amazing. She nailed it. And honestly, her reaction at the casket was great too. Raw, believable, not overplayed.
To Meadow Soprano, a valuable addition to the Columbia community.
As Meadow matured, she really came into her own, and it always felt like the show could have pushed her storyline even further. They gave us glimpses, but man, exploring her world in more depth would have been fascinating.
I mean, is that why you got out the suitcase?
And of course, you can't talk Meadow without the classics. I could have used ecstasy, but I didn't.
I could have taken ecstasy, but I didn't.
But you got out a suitcase.
I mean, is that why you got out the suitcase?
God, is there nothing to eat in this house?
God, is there nothing to eat in this house?
Peak college-age chaos. Meanwhile, Carmela's in the background acting like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth, which somehow makes those scenes even better.
Listen to Mr. Mob Boss.
What did you call me?
But the bedroom confrontation with Tony? That might be her most underrated moment. She starts out bold, almost taunting him with that Mr. Mob Boss line, trying on this new adult independence like she's trying on a jacket she's not totally sure fits. And then, within seconds, you see her shrink. A young woman suddenly realizing the weight of who her father actually is. There's so much happening behind her eyes. To be that young and hold your own against Gandolfini? She should have been made right there. Boom. A Hit is a Hit is actually a really good episode. Sure, the series wouldn't have fallen apart without it, let's not kid ourselves. But the plot is tight, the pacing is smooth, and the humor lands exactly the way The Sopranos needs it to.
Meow.
The meow choir alone is worth the price of admission. It's also one of those episodes that quietly does a ton of character work. It fleshes out both Christopher and Adriana, and it sets up the dynamic between them that becomes so important later.
However, there's one constant in the music business. A hit is a hit, and this, my friend, is not a hit.
And that final moment with Christopher and Massive Genius, that's a hit, is the perfect closer. Congratulations, Chrissy. There's your arc, boy. The whole show is so consistently great that talking about standout episodes starts to feel like pointing at a single page in a novel and saying, yeah, that one. That's the page, right there. But still, this one hits.
I think you should mentally prepare for the fucking possibility that visiting day sucks.
And the Visiting Day / Defiler songs? Absolutely perfectly written and executed bad music.
And every month he sends all his money home to his family. I was very impressed with that.
Adriana swooning over what a tortured genius the singer is mirrors her earlier FBI interview when she was proudly explaining how impressed she was with Matouche and the boys' school he was supposedly sending money to. Sharp as a cue ball, that one.
Well, I already got a girlfriend. She's Russian.
Tony loves to talk a big game about wanting an independent woman. But let's be real, he never actually chose one.
You know what? Go fuck yourself.
Tony.
The minute a woman showed even a hint of autonomy, he bailed.
I'm so pissed, I can hardly see.
Every guma he stuck with long term was basically some variation of his mother. Needy, chaotic, emotionally volatile.
$20,000. That's how much it costs. Like shit.
The only truly independent one, Irina's cousin, shut him down because he was too high maintenance, which tells you everything you need to know.
What Carmela did for me when I was hurt? The way she took care of me?
For all his macho posturing, Tony only felt comfortable in relationships where he was needed on his terms, where he could recreate the emotionally warped dynamic he had with Livia. That was the only version of love he understood. So of course he ends up with Carmela, not independent, totally intertwined with his emotional life, and willing to orbit him even when she insists she's asserting herself.
Thing.
You talk about this crap like it's science, Tony.
I lost a lot of fucking money.
And the moment Carm ever did try becoming more independent, he freaked out. Whether it was her refusing to gamble her spec house money on the Jets, or her trying to run her own business without his interference,
You already took your cut from the bird feeder.
He saw it as a threat, not growth. He'd even sabotage her out of pettiness, then turn around and relent only when it diverted her from something more dangerous to him.
Are they saying when you make a ceremony, my...
Like asking too many questions about Adriana. Honestly, it mirrors the same petty, spiteful impulses behind him considering feeding Ahmed and Mohammed to the FBI just because he was annoyed with Fielder pushing the Afghan clients. Completely disproportionate reactions driven by irritation, not morality. That post-coma descent only sharpened that hateful edge toward anyone close to him. So no, Tony didn't want an independent woman. He wanted a woman who let him reenact the twisted version of love he knew from childhood. His gumas weren't independent. They were all chaotic mother stand-ins. Tony didn't want autonomy in a partner. Tony wanted to bang his mudda. And every relationship he had was him trying to do it without admitting it.
I'm not home now. Leave a message.
Carmela only dragged AJ to Furio's place because she needed built-in, plausible deniability. With AJ standing there like a human chastity belt, there was no way things could drift into dangerous territory. At least, not in a way she'd have to admit to later.
Development executive.
Yeah, it was risky, because if AJ went home and chirped about it to Tony, that could have blown up instantly. But from Carmela's point of view, having the kid there basically sterilized the whole situation. Tony couldn't accuse her of anything, and she could reassure herself she wasn't doing anything wrong, because who cheats with their teenage son in the room? AJ was literally a prop, an emotional safety cone. She wasn't about to get swept up in some Furio fantasy moment with her son hovering over her shoulder.
My brother, artist with wallpaper.
Especially considering she practically melted for the wallpaper guy in the bathroom in 2 seconds flat. Compared to that, this was restraint. And honestly, Even if Tony heard about it, Carmela could truthfully say she'd only gone over to advise Furio about permits for his in-law unit. Nothing happened.
I was wondering when you were going to move those theater seats down to the garage.
The worst had already happened back in Whitecaps anyway, when she straight up told Tony she'd been fantasizing about Furio.
It was because of Furio.
At that point, the horse was already out of the barn, down the street, and smoking a cigarette.
Matter, I respect the ring.
Plus, in old school Italian culture, a married woman being alone with a man who isn't family is automatically suspicious. Bringing AJ along solves that. Built-in respectability. If Tony heard, he'd probably think she did the responsible, traditional thing. It's the same logic you see in old world families, or even something like that scene in Gotti, where a guy is told to bring someone with him out of respect for the woman's husband. Same energy as when I make sure I grab something off the porch, instead of inviting my girlfriend's friend inside when she's not home. It's not that anything would happen, it's just the unspoken rule. Prevent the optics, and you prevent the problem. I still don't get why Tony didn't just have Paulie whack Feech Lamanna. Tony hated the guy, and instead of telling Paulie, hey, it's time for Feech to go, he ships him right back to prison. Meanwhile, Paulie could have taken over the bakery routes and the lawn cutting racket. He would have loved that. It's basically a win-win. Feech is gone, Paulie gets a bump, and Tony doesn't have to keep wondering whether Feech is the next headache he's going to have to put down. But people keep saying Tony handled it right.
You've got McKelly Feech Lamanna released just this week.
Feech was respected. He did his time without ratting, and he didn't deserve to die. Okay, fine.
Getting you out of your Feech Lamanna problem, huh?
The parole stunt was supposedly the prudent move. Nobody needed to kill him, and Tony gets to send a message about respecting his leadership. But honestly, I'll never understand how this is supposed to solidify Tony's authority. How am I supposed to respect the boss when, for all intents and purposes, he basically ratted to get a made guy locked up again?
Did I learn nothing from Richie Aprile? Huh? Nip it in the bud.
If anything, we should have been the first ones in line to pull his plug. People then start talking about plausible deniability. Like, hey, the parole officer just happened to show up at exactly the wrong moment. Sure, it keeps morale up so nobody thinks Tony's gone full Caligula, murdering people at random. And yeah, Feech didn't respect Tony as the boss. He still saw him as the kid from back in the day. Removing him quietly was a message not just to Feech, but to anyone else thinking about getting nostalgic for the old regime. But that still doesn't change the basic truth. If Paulie had tried to hit him, Feech would have killed him.
He's well liked, T.
And Syl even spells this out. Feech was well liked, meaning whacking him would have stirred up trouble in the ranks.
Poor fucking Feech Lamanna. Tony sent the wrong ex-con back to jail.
So instead, Tony goes with the parole trick because, as Syl says, this was the best way. I get it. I just don't love it. But hey, never enough body count for OP, right? If you respect calculated moves over body counts, subscribe. And let me know, did this solidify Tony's authority or chip away at it?